Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Hawthorn here, and today we'll be talking about Boolean. If you have been working on 3D modeling already on other software, probably Boolean is not a stranger to you. But today, we will be talking about Boolean in Blender. And here we are back in Blender, and to talk about Boolean, we need to have at least two objects, and we will say this is two different meshes because we are using one mesh to cut through another mesh or to make debossing on another mesh, or we can also add volume to it with the other external mesh. In this case, when we are in Blender, by default we have a cube, and let me add another object here. I would say I want a cylinder, and I will open the panel here at the bottom left corner because I don't want to have so many vertices. I don't need to have so many vertices, so I will just keep it like 8 vertices, and I will increase the depth of the cylinder and reduce the radius so you can see better. I have one cylinder here which is quite sharp, but from afar it looks like a cylinder, and we have a cube, and the two of them I did already adjustment of the size when I first added this to the scene. If I have to add more of the cylinders later, they will come in same thing. So just to make it simple, to apply a Boolean, we need to select the main mesh here. And when we select the main mesh, we can go to the Modifier tab and we can add modifier. Under Generate, we have on the third one Boolean. Or if you have already remembered what you need to do, you can just type Boolean here. And when we stretch it out, you can see better what options we have. We have intersect, union, and difference. And by default, we have the difference, and you have an eyedropper here to drop an object, and that is the referencing object that we want to take from the scene. I can either use the eyedropper, or you are very familiar with this, you can open this list here and select the cylinder. In this case, I'm taking the eyedropper and dropping, hovering on top, and you can already see the tip box on the mouse cursor, which is object cylinder. It's telling you what is the object that you will be selecting, and if you confirm, just click it. When you click it, you don't see much difference, but in this case, actually the damage has been done. In this case, you will have to be very careful about the modifier logic. So the modifier is just a visual effects that you apply to the, of course, to the viewport. You can either select to have it seen on the viewport or have it seen on the render. In this case, this is done already on the viewport. And if I hide the cylinder, guess what will happen? If I hide the cylinder here, you will see a hole passing through the cube because we have the Boolean modifier. But this is only what we are seeing visually in the viewport now. If I have to turn off this one, it's like the real-time display of the modifier on the viewport. If I turn this off, the cube is intact. And so if I turn this back on, the hole is here. And if I turn off the camera, it means that, for example, now I have this framed inside the camera, right? And I'm having an Eevee so I can have a quick look at the render. This is the cube with the Boolean on the render. If I render the image now, you can still see the cylinder in the center. And to tell you why, because I only turn off visually in the viewport, so I have to shut it down also on the render. That is only for the cylinder. So in this case, if I run the render again, see, the hole is here. But if I turn this icon off, if I turn the render icon on the Boolean modifier off, and if I do the render again, you see the cube is intact. So be very careful. Sometimes you apply a modifier, you add a modifier to the mesh. Sometimes you just want it to look like this in the viewport, and some of the cases you don't want it to be viewed on the render, and that is how you're doing it. You have this on the viewport and off from the render, but you can also turn on the render and turn it off. So meaning if you are just taking a look or if you're modeling other things, you will have a simpler shape that represents the final outcome of your model. It will be less distracting, and you will want to have this on to save some memory of your computer perhaps. And in this case, because it is not destructive. And it also means that if I am moving the cylinder further away from the center, it will still do the same if I shut it down from the viewport. You see, because it's getting out of the cube, that's why it is cutting only the corner of the cube, yeah? This is how a Boolean works in terms of having this as a modifier. I'm going to undo this because there is another thing I want to show you, and if I'm very satisfied with the cut here, for example, I'm very satisfied with the cut here and the hole at the center, and I don't want to do any more changes to it. Instead, I want to do some other modification to the mesh. And in this case, I can do, for example, if I want to do the modification here, the inside edges, not the outside edges of the cube, I might want to apply the modifier. And this is the difference between applying and not applying the modifier. Let me just select quickly the two of them and do a duplication and move it to the y-axis. Now I have two sets, and I'm going to apply this very modifier here. Two ways of doing this. Either you go to the drop-down menu and click apply, or you hover the mouse here and use Command A to apply it. And of course, I will hide the cylinder here, and this one I will also hide the cylinder here. So you will see the two of them having the same results. But these same results, actually, if you go to the edit mode, you will see that this is really the damage done to the first mesh. And then here, the cube is still intact because it's just visually cutting through the cube. In this case, if I want to move the cuts, I can still move it by adjusting the position of the cylinder. However, in this case, I cannot just move the cylinder because the cylinder has nothing to do with the cube now. What I need to do is perhaps go to the top view and select the middle vertices and just to grab them around. But this will require much more work in the future. This is for you to choose different types of applying. Either you apply the modifier or you don't apply the modifier to the scene. And then another thing is that I want to show you is like this. Applying the modifier, meaning that you are bringing damage to the original mesh. And by what I mean that damage to the original mesh is this. For example, this is one face, and you can see that this one face consists of many different small edges and a lot more vertices. And in Blender, we do like quad. And quad meaning something like this. Square or rectangle with 4 edges or 4 vertices, we say one face. And so in this case, we can do some fine-tuning of the modifier, of course. Or what we can do is to go, for example, let me just move this to the side, add another cube, add another cylinder here. So what I can do here is just to do some loop cuts because my cylinder has 8 vertices. And so I'm going to do loop cut, one in the center and one here, and then do the horizontal loop cut to the cube, for example, like this. And then the other 3 here. After I do the loop cut like this, then I can try to add the modifier Boolean, and then I select also the cylinder, and then I will do the same result. I will cut through the cube here. And if I apply this modifier by using Shift A, I can Control A or Command A, not Shift A, I'm sorry. Then you will see that it's cutting through, and it looks like we have more quad on the cube. To make sure about that, what we can do is to use the vertex select and take a closer look. You can see that if I'm taking this face on top or the other face, which doesn't matter because it's symmetrical, and then if we change to vertex select, you will see 4 vertices. And when you see 4 vertices, it will do good if you want to do some more loop cut. So let me just turn on loop cut function here. And if I hover my mouse above this square, you can see square with a quad that you can see we can cut here. And if you just move it more closer to the center, you see I can also do a loop cut here, except I cannot do loop cut to the corners. Why is that? Because if you take a closer look at the corners faces, you will see more than 4 vertices. If I turn on to select this face and then turning on the vertex select, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fixed vertices. So it's not a quartz. That's why I cannot do the loop cut to it. Two ways of fixing that. First, because the damage has been done, so what I can do is to delete the face. I'm having an open face, and just by selecting 4 vertices, which they are really adjacent to each other, and then use F to fill. And then I can do the same to the other side. So 4 vertices, F to fill. And now if I turn on the loop cut, you see, I can do loop cut even through the corner of the mesh. But we can also fix the problem by grabbing this to the side first and adding another cube here. What I can do is to just bring it back, bring the cylinder back, going to the edit mode of the cube, and then I do loop cut here, which is at the center, because the cube is snapped at the center to the cylinder, so it's okay. I don't need to do much to it. And I do a horizontal loop cut, and then I can turn on the magnet. From the last episode, we talked about a snapping tool. Then I can select the vertex magnets. And if I'm going to do a loop cut here, which is close to the corner of the cylinder, right? I can just click and drag where I want to have the loop cut done. And if I just move my mouse close to this vertex, I can cut exactly at the very same position as so I can do the same horizontally. And now I have basically where the cylinder is having side vertices, I'm having the same cut here on the cube. And then I can again add a modifier Boolean and select the very same cylinder, apply by using Control or Command A, the Boolean, and then hide the cylinder by using X. And now you can see it's the same results. But if we go to the edit mode of this cube, you will see no other vertices unnecessary that is close to any vertices of the loop cut. And now if we turn on the loop cut function here, I can do loop cut everywhere I want because of the quartz, of course. In this case, we can try to start from the beginning and try to avoid more problem in the future. And this is how I would do a cut through to just minimize the problem of having any face that is not quartz, because quartz will be very useful for us in the future if we want to do more modification to the mesh. And then getting rid of all of this, I can introduce back the cylinder. I only need one actually, this one, and we set the location by using Alt to get a cube back. Again, I will add a Boolean modifier and enough of the difference option. Now I'm going to show you union. So union, literally you can understand that I am uniting 2 meshes together. I can take the cylinder and I can hide the cylinder because you see this is glitching here, meaning that you have 2 faces overlapping each other. And in this case, it's not only a face, it's the entire mesh that is overlapping each other. Let me hide the cylinder, and now I have actually the 2 of them combined into one. Of course, you can also do not the Boolean but the joining, so joining 2 meshes together into one mesh and then making them as 2 loose parts. But you can make use of the skill that I taught you last time to merge vertices, meaning that you do 2 loop cuts, one on top from the top down close to the surface of the cube, and then the other one from the bottom up close to the bottom of the cube. Loop cuts again using snapping tool to cut exactly where the vertices of the cylinder is and then merge the vertices. Or even better, you can turn on the auto match vertices. I'm not going to show you how now because this is your job. You have learned the 3 episodes all together. You can try to mimic the results. Interesting, right? Now, this is time for you to practice. And the next time we will learn about another modifier or another tool. Stay tuned. Bye!